Peace and love, everyone, and welcome to Black ManFullness Episode 2, where we uplift, identify, and heal Black masculinity. I am your host, Cazembe Abena. Happy to be here and glad that you are here as well. And today we are going to talk about identifying Black masculinity, identifying the divine masculine. I have a friend who I was speaking with recently. He's actually a very gifted counselor. His name is Aranda Yarrow. Go ahead and give him a plug. And the brother was talking about the necessity of us regarding masculinity as sacred. And I couldn't agree more. When you align masculinity or man, and let me say it this way. When you align manhood with the sacred, or you're aligning manhood with the divine masculine, it gives all those in their search and quest for manhood the ability to level up. It inspires all those who accept the path to immediately want to rise to the occasion. And rising to the occasion means optimizing to the best of your ability who you are in terms of integrity, honor, strength, power, discipline, fairness, wisdom, etc. So we're going to go through these principles today. And I'm going to start with 4 of these. And I have to give it up to, I'll be doing plugs throughout the ManFullness podcast, throughout these webinars here, these podcasts, these posts. I'll be always dropping names because I think that's what it's about. And because there are several people out there on the internet that are doing some good work. So this particular sister that I want to bring up, her name is Kendra James, and Kendra James has been unapologetically honest and with extremely sharp analysis in talking about and identifying masculinity, femininity, and how in modern day America and in our communities, how it's affecting us and our progress. And her channel is called The Crimson Cure. So I want to first start with 4 principles of masculinity that I don't think that she necessarily came up with them, but she may have, and she may have come up with the words in the way that she did. So I want to give her a shout out because I'm really kind of drawing from her these first 4 from her podcasts, and I think but for me they also echo what I've learned and studied about masculinity over the years. So the first is masculinity, the divine masculine. It protects. And in the first episode, I talked about how the spiritual side, the divine masculine, is the force that goes out really first. And it scouts out and determines a place to establish itself for the community, right? So once it builds and once it establishes and clears the area, then it can start to build. Once you start to build and you have erected something, a structure for other people to come in and operate safely, you then have to protect it. So protection is a very, very sacred and a very necessary principle of masculinity. And by the way, these are in no particular order. I'm sure at some point I'll put them in some sort of order, but kind of difficult because it's a bit broad, but bear with me. So the first principle is protection. It's one thing to build something. It's another thing to maintain it. You have to be willing and capable of maintaining what you build. And maintaining and as something, it involves protection, and protection involves power, force and the capacity for violence, the capacity for the possibility of violence. Jordan Peterson is a pretty well-known, I'm pretty sure he's a psychologist, and he's actually he's kind of coining himself as an intellectual. He's a bit of a racist, though. He's a bit of a racist, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. He does say some things in terms of masculinity, general, universal things in terms of masculinity that I like. So again, Jordan Peterson, a Canadian intellectual. I'll just call him that, a Canadian intellectual. And one of the things he said was that a kind man is not a nice man is not a good man. He said a nice man is not a good man. He actually may have used the term kind. I tend to separate the two, and I'll get to that in another episode. But he talks about how you have to be an effective man, you have to have the potential for violence. You have to have the potential to hold your own. You have to have the potential to successfully protect you and yours. You must have that ability, or else you're your effectiveness in the world is going to be drastically minimized. So he says, a better man, a great man, a good man is a man that has this capacity for violence under conscious and willful control. So he's not running around like a raging beast. He has the discipline and the wisdom to use his force, his power, his violence when necessary. But at the same time, he's not afraid to use it. So, and I guess I am going to get into kind versus nice now. So even if you choose not to use violence, but you've made the decision that you will use it when necessary, even that capacity for violence within you, that capacity for power or action and force within you, still sends out a resonance. And the resonance says, if you overstep these boundaries that I've set, this perimeter that I've set, this respect of me and mine that I've set, I won't hesitate to do what's necessary to back you up and to get you off of or out of whatever you have invaded. That sends out a resonance that says, if you violate the boundaries that I've set forth, there will be consequences. In that resonance, in those consequences, what is established is a certain type of order and respect. The other side of that is a man has built something. He's unsure of his strength. He's unsure of his power. He doesn't like violence. He's hoping he doesn't have to fight because he's unsure of his ability to fight off and to protect his space or protect his family. That sends out a resonance. It sends out a weak signal that, yeah, you can probably overtake this guy's ranch, his house, his home, his town, violate him and his children and his wife because he's unsure of himself. He has not made peace with his power. That man and whatever he has built will not be his for long. That man and whoever he has protected or claims to protect will not be protected for long. Because the very essence of what he's sending out is really fear. It's weak. It is not strong in terms of a decision. It is not strong in terms of accepting his own power. And it is not strong in terms of making a decision to do what it takes and do what is necessary to stave off a threat. People pick those things up. We all know that animals can smell fear. We know that. So these resonances that we send out are very, very real. Very real. In the same vein, the difference between a kind man, I like to use a kind man versus nice guy or nice man. And I was raised as to be a nice guy. And while perhaps it may have opened some doors, I realized that it did not necessarily give me the respect that I was looking for. And that's the difference. Another difference between a kind man and a nice guy is that a kind man does things based on principle, whether you like it or not. But he's going to do something based on his principles and his honor and integrity. He won't do certain things based on his principles and his honor and integrity, whether you like it or not. A nice man, on the other hand, does things not necessarily based on his principles, but to be liked, to gain favor, which really is manipulative. When you're dealing with a kind man, one who is willing and capable of protecting you and yours, know that that kind man may make decisions that you may not like. But him standing on his principles, regardless of whether they're liked or not, is his ability to stand firm and on his manly square. So he's protecting, even in that stance, he's protecting his integrity, he's protecting his stance, he's protecting what he believes in, and he's showing up and standing firm on his principles. All right, so that first one, protection. So the second one that Kendra James talks about is provision, providing resources. So I want to talk really quick about Kevin Samuels, and I really hate that he passed. I actually liked Kevin Samuels a lot. I didn't agree with 100% of what he said, but I agreed with 80 to 90%. The piece that I had a bit of an issue with Kevin Samuels was his whole idea of a high value man and how he defined a high value man. I felt that too much of it, although it was not just about money, but too much of it I felt was about money. And I want to use two examples of why the money component, while important, don't get me wrong, it's important. You have to be able to support yourself and your family. I believe you put too much emphasis on it. So when you look at leaders such as MLK didn't have much. I don't believe Malcolm X had much. But what made them valuable, high value men was their mission, their dedication to their mission. And I got to give another shout out to my man, Lorenzo Andre Sanford III, for pointing that out to me. That was a very, very enlightening perspective. So you want to realize that, and you want to know that as a man, if you may not be making six figures, but you can provide, whether it's through connections or resources or whatever, in-kind resources, a place for you and your family to lay their head, food, etc. But that you provide resources in other ways, such as maybe education, maybe healthcare, maybe building and serving the community, um, maybe clothing, things like that, that your mission provides these resources to your family, then you can still be considered a high value man. Because in that sense, what has happened is that people have invested not only in your mission, but in you. So maybe they're giving you all clothes. Maybe they're giving you all places to stay. Maybe they're giving you all food. They're educating your children. They're doing your wife's hair based on your dedication as a man to your mission. Obviously, the dedication of MLK to his mission was second to none. Obviously, the dedication of Malcolm X to his mission was second to none. So what is this telling us as men? What it's telling us is, in part, find something that you believe in. Have a mission. Be wholly dedicated to that mission. And in that, you can also develop mastery, etc. That will catapult you to the status of a high value man. So it's not just six figures. It is the ability to dedicate yourself to a calling and a mission. And from your dedication, other people will see your commitment and want to commit as well and want to follow you as a leader. That is also a high value man. So that's number two. I kind of went a bit around a little bit and kind of a little more broad, but talking about provision, meaning that your mission, even if you are not bringing in six figures a year, your mission can bring you and your family provision, and you can provide provision through your mission. All right. Third concept, third principle of masculinity is procreation. So, procreation. Obviously, procreation is having children, but I see procreation also in terms of it's a little bit connected and linked with your mission, but giving birth to things, creating a vision, um, always looking towards the future and seeing where you want your family to go, holding that vision in your mind and consistently working towards it. So it's not that just the creation of family and children, or it's not just the creation of children, it is the creation of a legacy. It is the creation of a legacy. Realizing that you will not be here for 200 years, 100 years if you're lucky, but creating and living in a way where you are developing something that you may not even see the fruits of right now, but you're doing it because you're thinking of the future. I said, all right, when I'm gone, this concept or this proprietary item will live on. This method will live on beyond me. This school will live on beyond me. This product will live on beyond me. I'm setting the foundation now to create this, the blueprint for something, but I may not even see the fruition of it. I may not even see it completed, but I've got enough here where I can put my stamp on it and I know that it's going to serve as a foundation after I'm gone. That is also procreation. You are creating children. And in these cases, your children are your proprietary items, your children are your products, your children are your methods, your children are your spiritual systems, a way of life. Your children is how to farm. Your children is how to build cars. Your children is your children is everything that can last beyond you, that can outlive you, and help you to create a legacy for others. The fourth principle is problem solving. Problem solving. Problem solving is really a lot of what men do. And I think in the society, um, our society is becoming more and more complicated. Back in the day, it was more about life and death problem solving. Now it's might get sued, want to keep your money, don't want to be harmed in a way, don't want to catch the disease, don't want to be homeless. It's just a lot more complicated. I want a way to communicate. I need to keep my cell phone. I need to keep a computer. It's problem solving. How do I keep this business afloat? How do I make this financial deal to keep money coming in and revenue coming in? What can I create that is actually valuable in the marketplace? Problem solving, problem solving, problem solving. CEOs, that's all they do. Executives, that's all they do is problem solve. So this is not a foreign concept, I think, to anyone. This is not a foreign concept, man or woman. This is not a foreign concept to anyone. We're always problem solving. But as men, you really need to be able to do this. You really need to be able to do this. And what it also involves is if you can't do it yourself, having the humility and the wisdom to connect with someone else that can do it better. So then perhaps you and one other, two other, three other, four other people come up with a solution with you at the helm. And you know that you're doing this either for your company, your family, who knows, right? The business that you work for, whatever else. But the ability to solve problems. Life is nothing but puzzles being thrown at us all the time. And we have to find ways to solve those problems. And the better problem solving we can, the better we can solve problems, really the better off we will be in life. For some of us, there are particular sets of problems that are more difficult than others. And in those instances, that's where you need to seek help. Don't just sit and spin your wheels, but seek help. So, one problem, and it is a big one, that I see in terms of the Black community and Black masculinity, the divine Black masculine, Black manfulness, is freeing ourselves from an oppressive society. So for some people, this may mean, for some men, speak to men here, this may mean, well, I'm going to become a senator. I'm going to make sure that I'm representing our community in local and city government. All right. Another one could be, well, I'm going to have a business that's going to serve our community, and I'm going to offer food. I'm going to offer after school programs, and I'm going to offer food for those children after school as well. Of course, the Black Panthers were famous for their, I believe it was breakfast before school, and the government took that once they shut down the Black Panthers and took that and made that a government program. But it was the Black Panthers that started that. So that's an example right there. Solving a problem where you have children who are not eating enough, or who just their parents are busy going off to work and they don't have the resources to give their children what they need. They found a way to do that. So perhaps that's something that you do. Perhaps another solution to the oppression that we experience here in this country is you decide to homeschool. You're not seeing that your children are excelling in the current educational system. Dr. Amos Wilson talks about this a lot, about how he believes that it's really kind of ridiculous that we would expect our children to excel when they are being taught by our oppressors. He's saying that, and he's saying that the needs of white children in mainstream culture, which is largely their culture that they created and put us in, is not the same as the needs of our children coming from our Black American culture. I want to say this too, that I'm not trying to, I don't want to, point us too much in terms of, uh, you know, being victims, but I do want to be honest about where we are. Because I do believe that ultimately we have to shift our mindset beyond being victimized, beyond the victim. But I am trying to illustrate a point in terms of some of the difficulties, and I do think we have to be honest about this, some of the difficulties that we encounter. What I'm saying here, the difference is in just in terms of saying, oh, we're victims. I don't really want to say we're victims like that. But the difference in talking about oppression in this country is that I do not believe that our freedom will come from asking white people for things. I don't know how differently we can ask them in a way that we haven't asked them over the last 400, 500 years. I don't know what we can do any different than what we've already done. So I believe that our emancipation will come from ourselves, will come from the problem solving that we initiate as Black men. Again, homeschooling, teaching trades. If we see that something is absent in the Black community, we fill that hole with training, and someone goes out and they actually perform. They either offer that service or they offer that product that is being created by Black people. Easier said than done? Sure, absolutely. But we must start to look at ourselves as being more self-sufficient. Here is another solution to problem solving in regard to oppression in this country. Perhaps some of us say, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to see not another drop of Black blood spilled here. Our ancestors suffered enough. I'm out. So perhaps in their minds, in that man's mind, he says, I'm going to take my family elsewhere and set up an expat community in another country. That is also another solution. So I am not of the belief that there is only one solution or one way to do things. I'm not of that belief at all. I'm not of that belief. Do I believe that simply voting and participating in this current form of government is a long shot? Yes, I do. Why do I say that? Because we've been doing it, and if you look at the years between 1865 and 1910, 1920, we had the most government officials and the largest Black presence in local and national government ever. And I don't see us ever getting back to that. That was quickly shut down, never to be seen again. And we've had a Black president, and the answer to that was Trump. So I don't necessarily see that happening. Again, I'm not telling anyone to stop. You have to do what you have to do. I believe everyone has a mission, but that's just my personal belief. So for me, my problem solving would be homeschooling and or getting out of the country. Another problem solving solution could be, hey, we're going to grow our own food. We're going to farm. Or maybe not even, kind of micro farming or micro growing, where we have greens in the home. They have those containers, those interior containers where you can grow various types of herbs and roots and things like that. Even something on that level. Again, that's solving a problem of malnutrition, a problem of, okay, what will happen if the store is shut down? Where will we get our food? That's problem solving. Those are the four pillars. Those are the four main pillars. I'm going to go into this again. I'm going to do a part 2 on this because I also have several others to go into that I'm just going to rattle off here. Episode 3, I'm going to go into each of these that I'm going to name right now more in depth. But you also have integrity and honor. Again, these are pillars of Black masculinity: integrity and honor, leadership, discipline, order / structures, responsibility, equity, accountability, power. We're in a space now as Black men where we are afraid of our own power because we don't want to be labeled toxic. We don't want to be labeled patriarchal. My suggestion is to operate with self-control, wisdom, equity, and prudence, but at the same time, have a deaf ear to toxic masculinity and to patriarchy and all this. It just don't even let that bother you. But make sure that you are operating with wisdom and equity and fairness, etc., and honor and integrity. Acquisition, which is again the acquisition of resources, power, etc. Provision / resources, protection, assertion, kind of goes along with power. We are afraid as Black men to assert ourselves, again, to be labeled misogynistic, etc. We simply cannot. Wisdom, protection, mentorship / leaving a legacy. Huge, because one of the things that we see in the Black community that is constant, really almost in the entire African diaspora, is the recognition of ancestors and the love of our elders. We must keep that. And so when we leave something for someone, we are recognizing that we will not be here always. Therefore, I must leave something for you because we are connected. I must leave something to my generations to come. So that connecting thread is something that is very, very important in an African mindset. Problem solving, of course, and whether that is leaving a product or whether that is training a person or persons or a group of young folk. All right? Problem solving, as I already talked about. Sacrifice, which is an absolute given. Men do that a lot. We sacrifice and we just don't make a spectacle of it. It's just something that we do. And sometimes often we suffer in silence because of it. So we've got to express ourselves more so that we can heal. And then procreation, sexuality, and sensuality. I'm going to touch on this later on, but sexuality and sensuality is very important for Black men in terms of satisfying our mate, in terms of increasing and amplifying our virility, and in terms of aligning ourselves with abundance, and in terms of creating our sphere of influence. We're going to talk about that later. All right, so this has been episode 2 of Black ManFullness. Please feel free to reach out with questions and comments at some point, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And let's build together. Peace, love, and liberation. My name is Cazembe Abena. Be well.